Hello everyone, it's Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo, and this is another one of those video series that I think I neglected the last couple of weeks. I've definitely not forgotten it though. This is Around the World with Batgirl. Now this is a endeavor that I am undertaking to bring attention to the young men and women serving their countries around the world during this holiday season. Most notably, I'm sorry folks, I live in the United States. It's the young men and women that serve for the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, and of course the Marine Corps. Hoorah! And being a Marine, I have a deep affection for them and for everything that they do, but for every one of the servicemen and women also. So this is going to be a very long flight, and it does bring to the forefront the oh God, I don't know how to say this, the abysmal implementation of ATC inside of X-Plane. I was perfectly going 100% all right all the way out to Islip. I had a missed approach because an AI aircraft couldn't clear the runway in time for me to land. And then the ATC started sending me on I would have to say a 50-mile round trip around Long Island. I reset and started back in again, and I got to a point where I crashed. Not the plane, though I did crash the plane a couple of times after this, but I inadvertently left my computer in quiet mode. Now I have a water cooler. When it's in quiet mode, it doesn't make any noise, and that's good for when I'm recording over here on this computer, my iMac. But when you leave a computer in quiet mode and you're playing a heavy-duty 64-bit 3D game, essentially what you do at a certain point in time down the road is you overheat it. And it shut down on me just as I was getting to the end of my flight. So I had to reset, and when I reset the flight, lo and behold, the wonderful paint scheme that I've been using was reset to the default. I decided to just run with it. So this flight, 2 hours of it is in one aircraft, and the last 30 minutes or so, I had to reset the sim, not exactly where, but in the general vicinity of where my computer crashed, and fly in and do my landing. You'll also hear not only me complain about ATC's air traffic control, its routing, but also its runway usage. I was flying into Islip Mac Arthur Airport. Wind was 030 at 14, and when I looked at it, it was gusting to 20. So they give me the runway of 33 left to land on. Now, for those of you not in the know, 030, add 30, you're at 360, so that's 0 degrees. Add another 30, that's 030. Okay, so that's 60 degrees off your nose, so 60 degrees off the right side of your nose. You have wind blowing at 14, gusting to 20. Well, the crosswind component for these aircraft, that's breaking the maximum crosswind. But there's also a runway 6 and 24 at Islip Mac Arthur Airport, and they would not give that to me. Well, I'm wondering if it was my fault, because ATC is really minimalistic in X-Plane, and I think it goes off of VFR or IFR spec. When I came back into the simulation the second time, I actually told it that I wanted to land on runway 06 in my flight plan. And lo and behold, without my knowledge, and as I'm complaining profusely about the problems that ATC has in this game, it vectors me in for an approach to the runway 6 at Islip Mac Arthur Airport. The weather in this one was shit. It was a winter storm in New York and Philadelphia. Not a big blizzard, but a winter storm. And, there was wind, there was rain, there was snow, there was wind, and there was cold. And it wasn't the best. It was definitely not the best conditions for a flight, but I had to get it done. You see here the frost on the back canopy as I'm setting up this flight for today. So there was a lot of clouds, a lot of white that you got to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly give you a little bit of a taste of what I was talking about throughout the game. Here I am making sure that all my controls are set. I also have another problem. I have a CH Products Pro pedals, which are now about 12 years old, and the potentiometers in them are probably shot because I have to reset the centering, the null zone on my pedals every now and then to keep myself flying straight. And I hate it because I don't have the money right now, but I'm going to have to buy different pedals. It's very difficult to fly general aviation aircraft without pedals. So in order for me to finish this flight around the world, at some point I'm going to have to invest $200 or $300 in a good set of rudder pedals for this game. Anyway, just going to put you into where I pick up from here. So I'll probably just let you listen, and I'll cut different pieces of this up and let you listen to it, okay? And this is definitely not going to be the full flight. I had intended on releasing this flight in 4 30-minute segments. By the time it was done, it was 2.5 hours, and it really should have only been a 45-minute flight. So I need to start thinking through what I'm actually going to do on my next flights. I think from now on, what I'll do is I'll cancel IFR before I enter airspace and just land on my own, since there is no rhyme or reason to how this game is actually doing ATC. The good news is that Dovetail Games is getting ready to start beta testing. I guess it's still going to be called FSX, Flight Simulator X, which means that they probably have all the problems that were keeping it from working on Windows 8 corrected. If that's the case, at some point along this flight, because this flight's going to be going on from now until I'm guessing my last flight to Atlanta is going to end on Memorial Day. So that's a long time that this series is going to be going on. But I think that sometime between now and then, I'm probably going to be moving to Prepare 3D or Prepared, or to FSX if Dovetail Games could get it out in time. I think that that's going to be the best thing I could do. And there is a Diamond Star Twin that's available for Microsoft Flight Simulator X. So this is going to be a 40 minutes, which is condensed down by a third, by 2/3, right? So instead of being for a 2 hours plus, oh my God, that's condensed down by a quarter. Instead of being 2 hours and 40 minutes, I'm going to try to give you this flight in 2 hours. So here we go. Thanks a lot for listening, and I will talk to you again at the end of this flight. Let's see how this goes. I'm speeding this part of the flight up by like almost 1,000%. But this part of the flight was where I was setting up my radios, setting up my actual flight path, and getting clearance and doing all the fun things that it takes to get a cross-country flight underway. This is actual things that you would do in a real aircraft. So filed my flight plan with clearance delivery, set up all my stuff, get my clearances, and then, of course, contact ground control and start to roll towards the runway. And in this one, I actually learned quite a bit. I learned that Flight Map Pro, I think it's called. I have to look at it again. It's actually a program that's on my iPad. It actually follows along with me, follows along the flight, and takes a look at, it gives me a moving map display of where I am at any given time during my flight. And it's called X Mapper Pro, and that actually helped me out a great deal. So let's slow it down so we can actually get this bird in the air. And here we go, and this is where I start to find out that my pedals suck. Sorry about that. But it was actually pretty cool. So we're going to take off, have a little bit of a crosswind, and of course I have some kind of scenery over here that I got from a website. And the wind almost immediately starts pushing me to the left. Now I'm flying the same heading. It's actually the wind that's pushing me over. You could see there I got the crab angle in, and I am not flying to the right. I'm actually flying straight, but I crabbed the aircraft to the right a little bit. You can see the difference between the flight direction and the flight path by looking at the top of the circles on the left multifunction and on the big great circle on the right multifunction display. So takeoff was rather boring. We got into the air and headed along our way. So let's pick up this flight as we're nearing New York, okay? So we pick up this next part of the flight with the clouds breaking up a little bit in front of us. That's not actually what's going on in real life. What's going on is that's the edge of the weather that they pick up for the game. Every 15 minutes the game looks at real life weather for the box of airspace that you're flying in. What I'm actually going to be doing is exiting that box that I'm in and going into a new box. And think of it as a box, like a big volume of airspace. So as it gets the weather for that area, I'm going to be able, it's going to bring that in, and the clouds are then going to be generated for that section. But it does give me an opportunity to point out Flushing Harbor, and up over there where I was pointing a little bit ago is where JFK is. It's pretty much the last time you're going to get a glimpse of JFK. But we're going to get a glimpse of New York and the Manhattan area and a couple of other things off our right wing. No, make that our left wing. If it was the right wing, we'd be going the wrong way. So there we go. We have it right there. And Manhattan is almost directly in the center of the screen, just to the left and above, right there, right where the mouse is pointing to. Staten Island to the left, and Brooklyn is right in front of us. So there's the Empire State Building, and Freedom Tower hasn't been added to the scenery yet, but we can see the 49th Street, 59th Street Bridge, Queensboro Bridge, Manhattan Bridge. We could see a couple of those things. See Jersey City off in the distance. We could see, I guess that's a Goethals Bridge. I'm not 100% sure. I thought it was the Verrazano at first, but it doesn't look the same. There's the Statue of Liberty. Oh, well, we saw it for a second right there, right above the mouse, Statue of Liberty. So this is about the best look of New York that we're going to get for this trip. And winter storm, and let's get on our way and go land into Islip Mac Arthur. But before we do that, we're only at about 12 minutes right now. I want to talk to you a little bit about why I'm doing this. I have a couple of things set that are going to make this as realistic as possible. I do allow there to be failures of instruments, failures of engines, failures of components on the aircraft, and I do fly the aircraft in real weather in real time. So this flight today actually did take me well over 3 hours. It was 2 hours before the crash, about 30 to 45 minutes, maybe almost a full hour of waiting. I say it's a full hour in the next part of the video, but I think it was closer to 45 minutes. And, real time, real weather, real, right? Real time of day, which is why I don't fly these things when I get home. I fly these legs when I'm off. So if you think about it this way, this is my last 2 days off before Christmas. As of Wednesday, I go back, and my next full day off to be able to do one of these will be Christmas Day, which would be nuts if I sit in front of this computer to do it. But I just wanted you to know that. So as we bid adieu to New York City, let's fast forward to where we're actually going to have to get into let's fast forward to where we actually have to start descending and landing. So we're cutting off large pieces of the excursion here of our wonderful trip because I think a 2-hour flight on my YouTube channel is just going to be boring as all hell. So essentially what's going on here is you're going to see my aircraft down south. That's the actual airport. That's where we're landing. Just trying to make sure I'm setting up the right frequencies, and I learned at this point that XMapper Pro lets me put the frequencies in, so I'm using XMapper Pro to actually work my radios. It's a pretty cool app, and the light version is free. The paid version does a little bit more. It does a lot more, actually. I think you could even use the iPad as a controller for X-Plane, which just would never make sense to me. But that's for people that like to use controllers that are not realistic. So we're flying, and at this particular point, I think we're getting vectors to the runway. So let's fast forward just a little bit more and get to the point where we actually do something. So we've been pretty much vectored towards runway 33 left over at ISP, and you can see it in front of us. 33 right is to the right, 33 left to the left. Of course, that's stupid to say, but it's important to note that 33 left is wider and longer than 33 right. And I can tell you this, on those two runways, I have accumulated over 400 landings, both full stop and touch and goes in real life. I've probably tripled that in flight sims over the past 30 years. So this should be no problem, but the big issue here is the aircraft is actually trying to land in a very big crosswind. What you don't know is that in front of us right now is an aircraft that is over to the right and down, and it is just about ready to land. And what's going to go on now is that it's going to land. We're on final, all ready to touch down, and we get issued to go around because the AI is not swift in what they're doing. The aircraft should be coming right over the trees right now. It's very hard to see. And I'm perfectly lined up, though I have a big crab angle. You can see I'm pointing almost 30 to 40 degrees off of the runway, and constantly having to look and see, should I bring the nose back over? And I should just use my confidence, let my confidence stay in me, and fly the crab angle that I had and then kick it over. I mean, the worst that could happen is I crash and have to do the approach again, which does not happen. Alright, so the aircraft that we were following is touching down right now, I believe. Let's see if I could see that here. And actually, it's right over the trees, not even near the threshold. Sorry. It's coming in a little bit slow. And I'm going about 75 miles, knots, nautical miles an hour. I should be doing about 80, and that's what I am doing because I have a little bit of a headwind. And he's over the threshold right now, just about ready to touch down. 500. And touches down a little bit long. You can see he's not down yet, and he is down. We're a little bit high because of that, so now we're getting back onto our flight path where glide path is perfect, and any minute now we're going to get the FU from ATC, and let's just wait for it. Okay, and perfect approach, you know what I mean? But it's a little bit long. This guy, see how slow he's going? He was in a jet. He should have been down at the other end already. And they say, go around. Oh, what the blank? You know what I mean? It's like, go around. Alright, I'm going around. Look at the air, well, you just missed it, but if you back up a little bit, you can see the windsock off to the left. So essentially what we have to do now is clean up the airplane. We have to do gear up, we have to get positive rate of climb, we have to have full power, and then we have to put the flaps up. Our job now is to turn off the landing light in a couple seconds. We don't want to blind in on the pilot, but we've got to listen to air traffic control. So let me foreshadow a little bit because I'm not going to let you see this. Air traffic control sends me up to 5,000 feet, sends me over to Norwalk, Connecticut, which would never happen in real life. I finally have to cancel my IFR, file a flight plan back, and start all over again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up from when I'm over the Long Island Sound, and we'll talk from there. Okay? I think that will be the best for us to do at this particular point in time. So let's get on with that right now. I just wanted to make sure I put this piece in because it's very important to show my frustration. I am now just about, and I can't make it out. Let's see. If you look at the instruments down below the center circle, let's see if I can figure that out. I'm 27 miles from Islip Mac Arthur Airport. I am now crossing the southern coast of Connecticut. Well, the coast of Connecticut, right? So they've sent me all the way up here and have not redirected me back to ISP. And there I am, trying to figure out where I am going. And look at it. There we are. Connecticut. What is going on with ATC in this game? I have no idea. And I am going to be flying this game or using this game for a trip around the world. So I'm going to cancel my IFR at some point in the near future and then reapply. So let's get to the point where we're going south and just before the actual game crashes. So here we go. We're just about ready to turn onto final yet again. And right around now, my computer starts to jitter. Well, it's not now. It's going to be about 5 minutes from now. I'm just giving you a foreshadowing, and I don't want to go through that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just talk you through what goes on. My computer just whacks out, and it was all my fault for having it set to quiet mode. So at this point, we're flying the Star Livery, and the next scene you're going to see us right around the same area of flight where the game actually crashes. And in that case, we are actually using a new livery, which looks like some kind of weird Caribbean airline. Alright, let's jump ahead a little bit and get there, because nothing really goes on here except for them putting us in a circle, passing over Brookhaven Airport, and then having to get ourselves all lined up for the runway and then crash. So in this next piece, I've actually made it out over the water where they're starting to vector me over to the runway, and I start to get a little bit, let's just say I start to get a little bit nervous because they're vectoring me south over the ocean in an ice storm. And occasionally what you'll see over where the altimeter is on the multifunction display, just to the right of the vertical speed indicator in the altimeter, you'll see that ice is starting to form on my wings. It is definitely fitted with some kind of a device that tells you when ice is on the wings. And I start to get a little bit nervous at this point because I've been flying for almost 3 hours of my day off trying to put this video together at this point. It was probably stupid trying to put this video together in an ice storm or a winter storm in the Northeast. But, you know, you gotta be ready for anything when you're flying around the world, right? And you never know what's gonna hit you. Anyhow, I've got everything all set up, and we're pretty much moving ourselves along pretty well. I'm cussing out the ATC left and right on this and talking about how they're not going to give me 060, because if you look at the ATC, the ATIS that's coming across up on the top, every now and then you could make out that they're, well, they are landing on runway 33 left and 33 right. It does not say that it's landing on runway 6. Or does it? I guess it's something we could check out. I am not reading it. I might have been just going off on it from before. And in the version that I'm using to put together the video here, it's not actually very, well, let's just say that it hasn't fully rendered, so I can't read the text at this point. So let's say that if I'm complaining left and right about it being not, correctly, them not choosing the right runway, it's all my fault. So at this point we're flying south. Oh, sorry, we've actually moved to 240, so it's southwest is what we're flying. And they're going to start turning us around to 060, so 340 to 300 to 330 to 060. Sorry, to 030 to 060. So we're going to start getting 30-degree turns every now and then for the next few minutes. The flight actually, with all of its issues, was not as unpleasant as I make it out to be. ATC was unpleasant. I'm pretty happy with the flight. I am definitely not happy with the ATC, and I think I was stupid for taking the flight during a winter storm. Every now and then out the window you're going to see some snow going. So I pick runway 06 at this point, an ILS approach, and I make sure that the ILS is tuned. But I really don't need ILS because the view out my window is actually 8 miles in snow. So it's I'm going to be able to make a VFR approach. It's greater than 3 miles. So they just vectored me over to, I believe, 300 degrees, or maybe, yeah, I think it was 300 degrees. We'll see that as time goes on over here. So we should be turning to 300 degrees. Ooh, maybe it's 330 degrees they sent me to. That's what it was, 330. So we're flying 330. Trying to remember everything that went on in this one. And we're still over the ocean. We're still over the Atlantic Ocean. Here comes the first of many snow squalls that we're going to go through. It just went by. Now, flying in weather is not a problem. Flying in simulated weather is, because you don't get the same visual cues that you do in real life. We have to make sure that our wings are de-iced. To the right of the right MFD is actually the de-icer, and one of the issues that I've done right now is I have not turned on my pitot to heat. And we're coming closer and closer to the southern coast of Fire Island. Fire Island stretches for about a third of Long Island. It's a really nice place to go. It has many beaches. Most notably, Jones Beach on one end of Fire Island and Robert Moses Beach on the other end of Fire Island. Actually, that's not correct. Jones Beach is on one end of Oak Island. So it's Robert Moses Beach on one end of Fire Island, and Smith Point is on the other end. I apologized. And of course, the Pines, the Grove, and a lot of other different small villages in between are there. To the left over there, you see a causeway, and you'll see a couple of causeways. I lived in this area. We're crossing over Fire Island, the island that kind of like is in between Long Island and Fire Island. That's Oak Island. That's the one I just talked about that had Jones Beach at one end, and I can't remember the marina on the other end on this side. I should. I keep saying Kismet, but it wasn't Kismet.
November 03 X-ray.
All right, so that's Robert Moses Causeway, and there was actually, that's Fire Island right there. That's Oak Island. That's where I used to work at Oak Beach Inn. Some little tiny things over there. That I'm pointing to a bridge right now that I was actually stopped for driving 147 miles an hour on my Mustang back 2 days before I left for the Marine Corps. It's the only thing that kept me out. That little circle there actually has an obelisk. There's an obelisk at Robert Moses, and there's an obelisk at Jones Beach to the west.
Y heading 030.
I'm very happy with the high-def mesh that I added to the game. It gives it a much nicer view. I actually lived within bicycle distance of where I am right now. I lived in Brightwaters, Long Island for a while, and worked in a pizzeria at the other end of the causeway called Martino Pizza for a little bit. So we're turning, and I believe this is where we're turning to 030 degrees, which will be our second to last turn. And here's another snow squall. So if you're looking at this, the cloud layer was 1,900 feet. Now we do have the barometric pressure set, the barometer set, or altimeter set, whatever you want to say. So the game is actually pushing the height of the clouds up just a tad bit. And that's good for us because we could actually see what's going on. Now the game does model weather pretty well, but it does not model seasons or model weather accumulations on the actual world in the game. It's kind of weird that it doesn't do that. So to our right is Bayshore, and up in front of us is going to be the Bayport, Blue Point, Sayville area. Making sure we have ATIS again, just to make sure that we got everything that we need to get here. ATIS is important. If you try to fly into an airport without it, it's your fault if anything goes on. Long flights, getting tired at this point, not knowing what I'm going to do. And I just read the ATIS again. It still says landing and departing at runway 33 left and 33 right. So it is a issue, but I think because I selected runway 6 inside of my flight plan that the game redirected me to runway 6. Now they're taking care of pushing me through the different approach points, so I don't have to actually fly an approach. I'm being vectored right in for a visual landing. It is snowing pretty hard at this point. You can see that happening. It's more apparent when you look left and right. And here we go. We're going to turn to 060 and report when you have the airport in sight. That should be coming close at this point. There we go, 060. So we read back the instructions and we're going to start looking for the airport. So the airport should be right in front of us after this. But it's actually going to be occluded by the weather in front of us. It's going to take us a few minutes to actually see it. Or a few moments, I should say. See? Still wet, sticky snow. And this is that new livery I said. When I reset, I didn't have time to go and re-add the stars livery to my aircraft. I think this one's actually pretty nice, so we'll leave it for now. I hate crashes. Well, computer crashes. Plane crashes, we haven't had one of those yet, thank God. So, this is going to be picking up steam, I hope. Let's go.
November 02 X-ray Papa. Contact ground on
still snowing. Connecticut River, I believe that is. So I actually went to school right on that river. It was a college called Dowling College. I went there from 1986 to 1991 for aeronautics and management. I just received the outer marker noise, and as I heard it, I lowered my landing gear. I was supposed to check the airspeed before I did that, but I was well within the right airspeed. I'm now going through ATIS for ATC and saying I have airport in sight, and I'm swapping over to the airport frequencies here. It's hard to see the airport, but it is right in front of us. And you're going to start seeing it break open little by little. Really nice snow coming out at us. Just making sure I know where I am. I'm the blinking yellow thing over there. And I'm also trying to make sure I have all my radio frequencies set. That's all I'm doing. So we're paused as we're doing this just to get the stuff set up. And I think it was also at that very moment that I realized I must have done something cool. They're setting me up for landing on runway 06.
Sierra Lima, runway 6.
And I'm like, that's great.
Runway 6 cleared to land.
There's the airport, and I'm just a little bit to the left of it, and I've been flying the ILS approach like I said I was going to. I would have known that I was not centered on the ILS approach. So now I'm going to start taking care of this aircraft and getting it in for a nice touchdown. We do not have the major issue that we did with crosswind that we did if we were going to be landing on 33 left and 33 right, which are perpendicular to this heading. So we're going to kick the nose around, try to get a little bit more center line on here rather rapidly. Wind is pushing us around a little bit. And of course, trying our best not to accumulate any ice on the aircraft. Going about 110. We've got the airport made. Let's drop some flaps, right? Keep the nose from coming back up. Alright, still trying to get on that center line. You can see a 747 taxiing towards the runway at this point, off to the right of the center line of the nose. It seems that the snow squall has stopped a little bit over here. Still a little bit high. Gonna lose that altitude, dropping another notch of flaps. Alright, and pulling back the throttle now to as low as we can go. We have the airport made, 17%, 0%. And what we're going to try to do is try to get off the runway as quickly as possible. Not the runway, but yeah, well, we'll get off the runway as quickly as possible. This aircraft comes in slow enough. Oh, we got an aircraft. I remember driving down the side of the airport too. Pretty cool. It's fun when you do things like this and you remember. We're going to try to make that second taxiway over there, the one just before where the 747 is, and I think we're going to be able to do that. This aircraft could slow down pretty fast. We're going to burn the brakes. We got her down, and let's get her down. How's that for a short landing? Look at that. We landed in just a couple hundred feet. Alright, let's go to the right, boys and girls.
November 3-1 Sierra Lima Gate taxi
runway taxiway marker is like right in the middle of the taxi. Right, so we're off, and now all we're going to do is follow what ATC says. So that is this flight. It was kind of harrowing at times, mostly because ATC didn't know their rear end from their elbow, and we had to do a lot of moving around airspace that you wouldn't have to do in real life. Here's a perfect example of how ATC could like mess things up. The terminal is to the left, and it's really a short hop to the left, but they are going to point me all around the airport to get to the same place, which is pretty cool if you think about it, that they can direct me around an airport, but they can't direct me around Long Island, but they do take the longest path in almost everything. So I'm just trying to make sure I know where I am. To the left over there, I would say, well, I was going to say to the left. I would say that I've never seen or known of a 747 to land at Islip Mac Arthur Airport, so this might be just stock aircraft taking off and landing here, because I do not believe runway 6 and runway 24 are long enough for 747s. They could handle 757s and A300s and A330s. Or 310s at least, 737s. Southwest flies in there all the time with 737s. So they're pretty much clearing us onto the runway to drive down it and go and park. So what did we learn from this flight? Well, the first thing that we learned was ATC is, well, they're I don't know, they're buggered. I guess that's the best thing to say. They're buggered. Oh, a C-130. They have landed and taken off from this, by the way. They're totally buggered. ATC is buggered so bad in this game. They just really suck ass. Sorry. But it's helpful in having them at times vector you to someplace. Now, we are seeing raindrops on the canopy when it's snowing. That's pretty wild. I guess it's our canopy is warm and it's showing that. Alright, so we've been told to go to the terminal via this runway, so we've gone down half of one runway, And there's a terminal over there.
November 0,
Now, just
1 X-ray.
to
Papa,
give you an
runway
example,
6, clear
we
for
were
takeoff.
just about
Runway
20
6,
feet
cleared
from
for
that
takeoff. November
white
01 X-ray. Papa.
hangar to the right of us before they told us to go down this way. So they are giving us the long way to get there. This is runway 10 and 28. It is not being used because it would be too much of a crosswind. What's going on right now is the null zone on my pedals are actually getting out of whack again. You can see that right there. So I'm going to fix the null zone, and that should fix where I'm going. Second thing is I was playing with the rudder trim on landing to try to keep my torque from turning me against where I was trying to set us up, so that messed me up a little bit. Oh, look, there's a Southwest aircraft over there. Just like I said, Southwest flies in and out of Islip all the time. And they've done a pretty good job modeling this airport. It's not overly detailed like I would expect. And if you look at the windsock as we're passing it over there to the right, you can see why 10 and 28 are not being used today. That would be a 90-degree crosswind, sorry. And that would be very dangerous for GA aircraft to land on. We're going to be
November
passing
0,
over in
1
one-way
X-ray.
33 left,
Papa,
33 right.
contact
Over
center
here,
on
this should be 33.
134.7.
Contact center on 134.7. November
Right?
01 X-ray.
I
Papa.
think, or is this 6 and 24? This should be runway. Which way are we going right now? Yeah, this is probably going to be runway 6.
November 3-1 Sierra Lima.
Which way do they want me to go? They want me to go right? Oh, they
Cross
cleared me
33
across
left.
the runway.
November 31 Sierra Lima.
I've crossed the runway. And
November 3,
there I go.
1
Now I got
Sierra
my
Lima.
further
Gate
vectors,
XCBA,
which are
Sierra
cross the
Echo.
runway and then go down to the end
Taxi
over here,
Sierra
make a
Echo.
right,
November
and make it back to the
31
gate.
Sierra Lima.
So I'm going to say this again. We're doing this flight to bring attention to the young men and women serving the different nations of the world during this holiday season for their military. Specifically, me, I am trying to pay respect to those that are serving the United States military forces, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and of course, URA, the Marines. And thank you very much, everyone, for your service. And we're thinking about you this holiday season. I also want to bring attention at some point to some charities. I have from now until Memorial Day to start filling up the comment section below with them. If there are any charities you think that I should help promote here, please do send them to theaddictedgamer@gmail.com with Around the World with Nikki in the subject field. That would be a great thing to do. So this flight is almost over. Finally, we've flown into Islip, so we've gone about 1,000 miles worth of flights so far in the last couple of weeks. We've flown from Atlanta to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, to the airport of first flight. We've flown to Quantico Marine Corps Air Station. We've flown from Quantico to Gettysburg, from Gettysburg to Philadelphia Northeast, and from Philadelphia Northeast here to Islip Mac Arthur. And each one of the other ones had something to do with the history of the military and the United States. This one, honestly, is just because this is where I did all of my real-life flight training right here at Islip Mac Arthur Airport. Now, I did get routed here to a gate, which is kind of weird. But let's just make believe that we're in a little mini jetliner, right? And we are going to take this, park it, shut it down, and then bid you all adieu. So let's get all this done. Now I'm still a little bit off center, but I'm going to leave it this way. Parking release on. Fuel off. Okay, I'm going to turn masters off. Throw the keys back on the key holder. Turn off the avionics. Turn off the alternators and all other electronics. And let's pop the hood. We are done. Folks, that was our trip for today and our traditional look around the front of the aircraft. Here it is. Like I said, we were a little bit angled here, but I guess that works for us. Well, thank you very much for joining me on this flight today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you don't mind me bitching and moaning about ATC in this game. Hopefully FSX has a very quick beta and we could start using that, unless somebody can tell me the secrets behind using ATC in this particular flight simulator. Well, it's time to end this episode. Thank you all for watching, commenting, and following me. I know this isn't a very popular one of my series, but it is one that's not going to go anywhere because it's one that I'm doing for me and for those of you that are serving the military around the world. Thank you all, and with that said, you all be safe out there, and I'll talk to you soon.